To start, first of all, thank you for coming out tonight. We really appreciate all of you guys registering and then showing an interest in moving into or through the process, I guess depending on where you're at, whether it's 09, 08, 07. And hopefully we will be able to give you some solid information on what to start with, what to move on next, or how to finish the process. So we've got some stats and some data that we're going to throw at you, some guidelines, some timelines, and some interesting, hopefully, facts and tidbits. And then we want to really focus on the two folks that we have up front, Marcus Walker from Thomas More University, and John Robertson, assistant coach with University of Cincinnati. So we're excited to hear their viewpoint. As we get into that, we also have a player. Unfortunately, we had two set up, and one ended up not being able to make it tonight. So we do have a young lady from one of our ECNL teams that's going to come up and talk about her recruiting experience towards the end as well. But, so Paul and I have been working on this, I should say, my name is Wil Cagle. I'm the Kings Hammer Education Director, and one of my responsibilities as Education Director is college recruiting. I am also the sports recruits coordinator, so when you get your sports recruits account invite in August or September of the year, that's coming from me. When you try to fix things, that's coming from sports recruits, not me. Just a reminder. So, but no, but if you do have questions along the way, and we'll see some stuff about sports recruits in the presentation. We do have this session being videotaped, so that will be edited, processed, and put on YouTube, and probably put into Playmetrics as well, so you can access that from either of those venues. And then everything that is on the slide deck that you'll see, plus some things we'll probably skip over due to time, will be put into a PDF, and you'll have access to that in your Playmetrics account as well. So if you get on your Playmetrics homepage, just go to Resources, and then you click on Resources, and there's a file that has Education and then College Recruiting, and it'll be in there in the College Recruiting folder, okay?
All right, so here we go. So as mentioned, we do have an agenda tonight. So we're going to take a look at the college landscape a little bit. That's going to be, a lot of numbers, right? Just talking about numbers of teams, levels of play, numbers of players. Also dive into a little bit about financial aid, scholarships, and financial aid. Two separate things, and then talk about finding your fit. The nice thing about that part is that it's not exclusive to athletic endeavors, right? That it is useful tips whether you end up playing in college or you decide along the way that you're not going to play in college. Those are some things that will really help you out. Recruiting guides and timelines, so we should be able to help you out in that as well. We're going to do a little dive into year by year. The athlete perspectives, that's when we'll bring our athlete up and have her talk, and then the coach's view. And then my hope is that we'll have plenty of time at the end for just open Q&A. Just get anything that wasn't already touched on mentioned. All right, so college landscape snapshot is where we'll start. And again, we're not going to labor on these a whole lot other than to say that if you look at the top row, and obviously this is broken up but has both genders listed on it, there are a lot of people playing in high school. Now, the thing to keep in mind about this slide and the information that's presented here is that this is related to high school players playing in high school, so scholastic sports. It does not break out club players. So what I hope is probably assumed is that the number of club players at that top would be lower than the number of high school players. So number of college players, so the significant piece in this, there's two. One, there's a lot more female college players, a little under 5,000 less in the men's spot side than in the women's side. But also, that if you look at that number compared to the top number, it's a lot smaller. Right? So while there are a lot of opportunities to play, not a lot, right around 10% of high school players playing across the country end up playing at the college level. And it's even smaller for Division I. Too frequently, I think, athletes, as they enter into this process, have been, I think, misguided, and I don't hope to offend our Division I coach down there, misguided in that D1 is the only place to go. It's the only place to be. It's the only place to play. And I hope the consistent message that you'll hear from all four of the folks up here, is that that's not really the case. There are a lot of options across the country, and finding the right fit for you is the most important. And then it's got some percentages and breakdown. And again, I'll just restate, those percentages are based on the high school numbers, not the club numbers. So the nice thing about being in a format and system that you guys are in is that you're in a club where there is a lot of exposure for our players, especially those players who are working hard to try and achieve at a high level. And so your percentage of success and chances of getting into a college program of your choice are greater than the average high school player. All right. Next slide. So teams and rosters by levels. Funny because Marcus and we were just talking with Marcus about some of this. But so if you go through, it just shows you breakdown of NCAA Division I. So it gives you the levels of play. How many of you are already aware of the levels of play in college? Somebody, yeah, a couple. Yes, thank you. Brave souls, the dads. Okay, yeah. So when we talk about the landscape, right, there really are a lot of different places to play, a lot of different levels of play that present a lot of different opportunities. So you've obviously got NCAA, which consists of 3 divisions, right? One we all see the most on TV in any sports, and we all hear about, ones that make the noise, ones that in the NLI name. No, NIL, there we go. All right, then NCAA Division II, NCAA Division III. And then there are non-NCAA governed sports, NAIA, NJCAA, which is National Junior College Athletic Association, which has 2 years. Other 2 years, there's also the National Christian College Athletic Association, which has member colleges who participate solely in that, and some member colleges that also participate in other governing bodies. So there's a lot of programs out there. All total, roughly 1,700 colleges offering soccer at the women's level. And if you look through, again, similar to the last slide, data was a little bit different year, but 41,975 players playing across all those levels of play. Average roster size is 25, and if you see over there, right, so you can see that there are some that are, 29, 28, so significantly higher. The conversation we were having with Coach Walker is that a number of the schools are now carrying even higher rosters. You've got schools that are 35, 38, 40, 45 that are being mandated. So lots of opportunity for players to get on rosters, but maybe a lot more work to be done in order to get yourself on the field, to get varsity playing time. All right, next up, so dollars and cents. All right, so the participation stats and then scholarships in dollars. Again, broken down by the NCAA level, the average roster size, so all that is fairly clear from the other screen that you saw. And then looking at scholarships is one of the other conversations that we frequently hear with parents and players, is that they are, working, playing, because they need to get a scholarship, right? And so it's just recognizing as you enter into this process how those scholarships work, right? So if we just look at the NCAA D1, average roster size 28, the scholarship limit for Division I colleges fielding soccer teams is 14. So they can give out, and John, you both could help me with this, right? Because I'm always trying to, because I think it's different. My experience was, at the junior college level, so I knew how to do my math with my scholarships that I had to give out. But 14 scholarships, so that's, let's say the max scholarship is, that you can allot is, I was trying to do something that would be easy. Let's just say 28,000, just for math's sake, right? So that's 28,000 per player, or 28,000 that you can divide those scholarships. You have 14 scholarships at $28,000, and then you can divide those any way you want, correct?
Yeah.
All right, so you could award 28 scholarships going to be $1,000 a piece.
Yeah, and I think it's so volleyball, football, basketballs are the head count sports.
Okay.
So it's either a full scholarship or not.
Right.
Whereas we are an equivalency sport, so it's you can percentage it, and there's packaging with academics and at certain places.
Right. We want to make sure we hit on that.
Yes.
It's not everywhere that you can do that.
No.
But it seems like that it's growing. So
Yeah.
what I want you to take out of this then is this, that there are 14 scholarships, and there is every college, every division, let's start there. Every division is dealing with a specific amount of money that they are allowed to allocate for their sport, right? Now, every college can then take those scholarship numbers. So just say 14 and 18, 824 per player, right? And say, all right, we're going to give out the max. So we're going to be a school that's going to give out 14 and max 18, 824 per player, right? Or the college is going to say, okay, you can have 14 scholarships, right? But we're not going to cap them at the max. We're only going to give you this pot of money, which is not the maximum pot of money, because we're not going to allocate that much to our women's soccer program this year. And so the coaches then are responsible for balancing that math and saying, okay, well, what does that mean? If I have a roster of 28 players, I have a set pot of 28,000. Now, in reality, the pot is much bigger than that. I'm just using 28. This is easy math for me, right? So 28,000. So I can give 14,000 to our top player. Now, 27 players and $14,000 left. And so these players are going to get $2,000. And so I give that to 4 players, and now I have $6,000 left, and the rest of the players are going to share that, or 5 more are going to get the 6,000, 3,000 apiece. That's not right. It's 1,500 apiece. There we go. 1,500 apiece, and everybody else is going to be not getting an athletic scholarship. Okay? Is everybody with me on that? Yes.
Is that the amount annually or total for 4 years?
Okay, so that's an interesting question. So in this scenario, it's annually, okay? The other thing to keep in mind is that, well, first of all, you have to make sure that you're looking over there and see that in the NCAA, only Division I and Division II give athletic scholarships, like grants and aid for athletics. Division III does not, right? And then NAI and NJCAA do as well. There's a lot of fluctuation in the NJCAA by institution on whether they're giving scholarships, not giving scholarships, and how much they're giving. And then NAIA has a broader flexibility in their scholarships, but it's still very much determined by the institution. How much does that institution want to invest in their women's soccer program, or any sport, right? And usually what you'll see, this should not be a shock to anyone, is that most institutions choose to invest more money in higher profile sports where they can generate interest in their college. Sometimes that'll be soccer, because they'll feel that there's a priority for soccer in whatever environment that they're existing in. Frequently, it's football, basketball, both men's and women's basketball now, getting lots of money, and other more high profile sports, okay? So, all of that just to say that the scholarship opportunities exist. They're just very limited, and you need to be aware of financial aid. Right?
Can I interject something?
Oh, absolutely.
Please. So, just to state it a different way, this is what the level or the governing body limits us at. So NCAA says you can have 14 scholarships for women's soccer. It's up to the school to decide, here's how much women's soccer actually gets. So when you look at, like, for instance, we'll talk about Division I, I think you'll agree with me, not all Division Is are the same. Some are at 14, some might be at 2. Ivy Leagues have 0 athletic money. So it really comes down to the school. So, if you're talking to a Division II school, don't just assume that, hey, they've got 9.9 scholarships and kind of do some quick math on the roster size. It's based on the school, okay? And that is just athletic money. Like Coach John said, a lot of it has to do with, hey, if you got really good grades, we're gonna stack athletic money on top of it and combine it for a complete package. The difference with NAI, we used to be NAI last year, so I'm pretty well versed in this. NAI is a little different. That's total money. So that's your full package, academic and athletic. So while it does look like they've got more than Division II, you've got to account for the athletic or academic money as well. So a kid that gets, for instance, a full academic scholarship is actually taking one of the 12 at NAI. Does that make sense?
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, again, to roll this back is that, and you'll see this in the timeline, if you're an athlete who is looking to participate in college soccer and is not looking to pay cash in order to do so, you're going to have to be exploring alternate scholarship and financial aid opportunities, right? So, primary, first and foremost, is what? Say it louder. Academic, right? And then you have private grants, and you have, this is a terrible word, especially 5 kids who went to college, loans, right? Student loans, parent and student-based student loans, right? So there's other financial aid that is going to come into play because it is going to be really rare that anyone sitting in this room walks into a college with a full ride. Before we leave this screen, I'm going to piggyback on what was said about it is that per year. Okay. The other thing that most scholarships and is Division I is provided the opportunity to give 4-year scholarships in some sports. I don't know that I've never seen anyone do it in soccer. I could be wrong, but I've never seen it. Right, and then no other division gives 4-year commitments. Every commitment, every scholarship is 1 year at a time, and then it's reevaluated, right? And there's a timeline, a deadline for the college to let you know. If you're not getting as much, or you're not getting a scholarship, they have to let you know by a certain deadline so that you can make decisions about what your future looks like, right? Now, I will say, some of those deadlines are July 1st. It's not a lot of time to then decide what else you're doing, okay? And sometimes you revisit it and it goes up, right? So sometimes it doesn't. I had a daughter who played Division II in Florida, and she entered late and got what they had left, and then hers went up every year. She was fortunate that it went up. There were other players on her team who got their scholarships eliminated or reduced during the years that she was there. So it happens. Any questions about financial aid, scholarships? Yeah.
What specifically, could get you, a higher scholarship?
So we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we get through. I think that's a good question. So when we start talking about what you can do in your fit, we'll talk about that. So hold that, and then if we don't get to it in the end, make sure you bring it back up. Okay, so the next thing then, with that in mind, right, so we start to at least see the landscape. Okay, so how do we find our fit? I mentioned that phrase before, right? Finding the school that fits. Right? First and foremost, you have to start talking to yourself. It sounds crazy, but you have to start considering, am I ready to be a college soccer player? Right? So these are just some of the things, right, to consider. And coaches jump in, because I would love to know if I got it right. So training. Now, obviously, your club and your high school situations all vary, and the college you can go to is going to have players from all over, and theirs may vary. But in general, you can say that training, both on and off the field, is going to be more intense and more time consuming at the college level than it is right now, right? So are you ready for that? Are you ready to be fully immersed, 2 foot in? In general, everyone is talented when you go to college. If they weren't, they wouldn't be there. And so you are may not be, but likely will not be the best player on the team when you show up. Now, hopefully you can work hard enough to become the best player on the team, but it's likely that you're going to show up and not be the best player. Are you ready for that? Okay? Time management is critical, and that's for any student. But for a student athlete, even more so. So you have to figure out how to manage your time. Are you ready to do that? Because you're going to be the one doing it, no one else. Right? You're going to be responsible for that. Your college team is everything. Now, what I mean by that's pretty broad. You will likely room with them, eat with them, travel with them, do social things with them. You'll lift with them, you'll play with them, you'll practice with them, right? Cry with them. You'll cry with them, you will laugh with them, right? It's your life. And sometimes it's painful, and sometimes it's ugly, And sometimes it's joyous, right? But that's your life. Are you ready for that? Okay? Your coaches are more involved and more demanding, and I don't mean that in a negative way, right? It's just they are. They're more involved and more demanding day to day in all the things that you do than your high school or your club coaches are right now, okay? So are you ready for that? All right? Okay. So some more things to think about. This starts to answer the question in the back, right? So some primary traits and characteristics that college coaches are looking for in their athletes, and I welcome John and Marcus to jump in here. High levels of athletic ability. We were just talking about that with Marcus, right? So strength, speed, agility, balance. You've got to be an athlete, okay, in order to play at the college level. But technical ability. So your touch, control, your range of passing and shooting, right? Your position-related qualities. Keep in mind, every position has key qualities and characteristics that lend them to be more successful at that position. Now, where you're at right now may not be the position that you go into, right? I know when Paul and I were coaching college and recruiting, I'm sure, I know I did, right? I changed kids' positions from their club in high school at least 50-75% of the time. They ended up, I recruited them in as one thing, and they played at something else, okay? Game intelligence, reading the game, position awareness, understanding your roles, and especially understanding your roles in specific situations, right? Areas of the field, areas of the game, right? When we're transitioning, this is what I need to be doing to transition to defend. When transition to attack, this is my role, this is my mindset, right? When we're in attack, in the back third, here's what I'm focusing on. We're in attack in the front third, here's what coach wants me to do, okay? Now, if none of that made any sense to you, we got some work to do, right? That's okay. That's why we're here getting started, okay? And then your attitude. I will say, as a club coach, the conversations I have with a lot of college coaches who come and recruit with us, the first thing that we talk about is, what's that kid like, right? What's their attitude, right? And I will guarantee you, and again, welcome to jump in, when they're coming around, all of the coaches come around to these events, these showcases, right? Yes, they're looking for that athletic kid. They're looking for that kid who you can pick up and say, that's the best player on this park, right? But they're also watching that kid when they get subbed off. They're also watching that kid when they get tackled. They're also watching that kid when they don't win and saying, is that really a kid I want in my club, on my team, in my college? Is that really a kid that I want to spend money on, right? So that the attitude really can trump several of the other things, right? You can be a great technical player, but if you're not determined, you're not accountable, you're not supportive of the team, it's probably not something that you're going to get an opportunity with, okay?
And I think that comes down to fit, too, the attitude. So like, for instance, in our recruiting process, we tell every kid, his team, it's a job. My team's a job. Every team's a job. You can't work during the season, you're working at soccer, whether if you're as a member of the team, whether you get scholarship or not. So you have to be willing to say, have the mindset of, I'm going to go attack this and do what I need to do to get what I want out of it. So that attitude is a big part of it, especially when, Will just talked about, you may be coming from being your leading scorer on your team to barely playing. Your attitude is what's going to get you where you need to be. And it's a learning process. And I think I'm very deliberate when I talk about recruiting. It is a job. Like it or not, like his job is a different job than mine. You take another big school, sweatshirt's cool. What are you willing to do for that job? They all are different jobs. So for instance, Big 12, right? If you're just saying, hey coach, this is where I want to be, and coach is saying this is what you have to do to practice and this and this, and that's all you're doing, you're probably not going to be very successful. Those kids are doing stuff outside of practice. And so that's where it comes down to finding the right fit. So when Will was talking about Division I, Division II, personally, none of that matters. Find the right fit. Hate to break it to you, but very few of you will go on to be professional soccer players. There's just not a professional pathway for women. And even if you do, there's not a boatload of money in it. your education's number one. So can you surround yourself with people that are gonna help you get the job you want? Sports teaches a lot of things that help us in our job. But the first job with playing with any team is understanding that, hey, I'm the newbie, and I'm gonna use my attitude to get where I wanna be at some point in 4 years. And if you're not willing to accept that, it's very difficult coming in. Because I can tell you right now, Will and we just talked about it, the level is totally different. None of you have played at a level as fast, as hard, and as physical as my level, definitely not his level. So, doesn't mean you're not a good soccer player, it just means you might not be ready. So how are you gonna take that adversity? That's where that attitude really comes in, and it's the biggest thing you can bring. So yeah, we do ask coaches, what's she like, has she dealt with an injury? What was her response? Like, oh, I hate going to rehab. Well, if she hates going to rehab, does she really want to get back? Okay, on the flip side, I will add this is to the parents. Parents have some weight. You know, if I go to a game and I hear a parent complaining about everything and talking crap about the coach, I'm literally like, that's not the kid for me. Because guess what, if you're willing to do it with coaches standing there, you're gonna do the same thing about me when you don't get your way. So, that's not to scare you, but like, it's honest. We wanna bring kids in that we wanna work with, that wanna get us to where we wanna go. And one person's not gonna do it, it's gonna take a collective. And so one bit of attitude, whether it's a parent, whether it's a grandma, whether it's a boyfriend or girlfriend, whatever, if it's taken away from the team mentality, we're not gonna get what we need.
And I'll add on that a little bit. And I would just say, you know, if I sound like a robot, sometimes there's certain things with NCAA and compliance, so I cannot say anything specifically about UC, I can just speak generally. But I think, you know, based on the fit and, you know, just to follow up what you touched on there, I think that the biggest thing is being a consistent person. Because usually, you know, when you're in college, again, I've been at every levels, right, I played at D3. So I think usually in college is your first time away from home where you're independent. And so it's like, you know, from a young age, like how you're nurtured, how you're raised, how you're shown love, you know, do your parents do a lot of things for you? You know, are you helped out a lot, or are you coddled, or are you quite independent, mature early? And so again, in terms of the fit, like there might be some environments that are great for you based on how you were raised, right? There might be some environments that are great for you based on your personality. But I think that's a big piece of it for us is the character and how you've come up in the first, 16, 17 years of your life. Like you're in college for 4 years and it's super fast. So I think if you're going to do it, it's way more time and more consuming than just doing a degree. And so I think if it's like, where can I go and get the absolute best out of it? So my 95-year-old self, you know, the story you look back on, it added to it. And then, you know, like we talk about a lot too to people, like, you know, you're gonna have some, you know, pro somethings, pro dentists, pro soccer players, something in between. But it's if you do it right and you're a consistent person and everything you do, you attack the details, whatever level, whatever you want to do, you'll get as much out of it as you can. So consistency with your organization, your class, you know, using your time in a week and time in a day well is, I think, helps you get the best out of it to kind of get out of your own way so you can think about soccer when you get to it.
Well, both of you, John and Marcus have done me a favor and mentioned several times now, finding your fit, right? So these are just some factors. They're not all-encompassing. They're a pretty good depth into the factors. They are not in any order. I just threw them out there as I was composing it. Athletics is first because we're here talking about college soccer recruiting, right? So you may look at your school initially and say, all right, first thing I'm going to do is make sure everybody's, I'm going to go back to that 1,693 schools that have soccer, and that's the start of my search. All right, that's a decent place to start, okay? Then you've got to start looking at some of these other things. And to John's point, your personality, your upbringing may have you decide which of these, I don't know, there's like 16 of them, I think, factors are the most important to you, and then you figure out, okay, what you're looking at, okay? I'll go back to my daughter, right? Athletics was her first. Location and proximity was her second. She was raised in a house of 6 kids, right? She had no desire to stay close to home. It was literally took a map, put a pin in Cincinnati, and then went 300 miles around. And I was like, oh, okay, good. She's like, no, nowhere inside that 300 miles. How she ended up in Florida, right? And now she's in grad school in California. So, but that's because she had the confidence and comfort of knowing that she could get away from home. I've coached a lot of kids who had a lot of offers that ended up staying 25 miles from home because that's where their comfort was, right? So that may be your factor, right? Academic level, right? There are 1,693 schools that offer college soccer, right? All of those colleges are a variety of levels of academic rigor, right? So maybe that's your next thing, okay? Obviously majors and minors. How many of you are 09s? Raise your hand if you're an 09. Okay, all right. So what are you going to study?
Me?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Exactly. So,
Good answer.
that's right. So, yeah, what? So maybe right now that can stay broad, but you might start to like something. And we'll get through the timeline a little bit. That's not specifically in our timeline, but that's things that you can start to consider as you start to narrow, which is in our timeline. Obviously, cost and financial aid. Mom and dad, you're probably going to lead that conversation, right? Because they don't know money. Right? If they do, they just think that you have a lot of it, and it's theirs to use. Okay. I don't think that was only my kids, but anyway, so class sizes, you start to dive in after year 1, year 2, year 3 of doing this, right? Some of these other things. And then things that you don't even consider maybe right now, like housing, until you get on a campus and see the difference between one college's housing and another college's housing. You're like, holy cow, that's 60-year-old building, and this is a brand new luxury thing. Okay, maybe I'll go there. But those are also things that you can see anytime doing a tour and a search online of a college. So a lot of different factors that you can consider. And again, and it ended up there at the end, again, not because it's not, a concern, but this one may also end up back in mom and dad's lap, is safety, right? Is the area that college is in. There are a lot of great colleges that, I've toured, I've been to, I've seen. Not sure I would have wanted my child to be in that area on a consistent basis. But good schools, great soccer programs, so you have to do. I think, again, John kind of touched in this same thing. If you look at the very bottom of this screen, read it, take a second, swallow it. Right? If you're not playing soccer at this place, would you be happy being there? Because if the answer is no, then you probably shouldn't be there playing soccer. Right? Because you're one injury, one altercation, one grade away from maybe not playing soccer.
I remember two conversations this year that I had with players from the club that I used to work at. They were pretty emotional. And the first one, believe it or not, the player you think has everything. I think she got on the top. 25, were freshman in the country. She had everything, played and excelled. The emotion of the conversation, and it was emotional, was pouring rains all the time here. I was like, what now? Well, I live just outside LA. It rains all the time here. Like, I just don't know if I'm happy because it rains all the time here. My goodness, you're in the Pacific Northwest. What did you think? I didn't realise.
Right.
I didn't realise how much. We start to train every day when we're training, and it's just, wow. And to be fairly good to come through it, you get used to it, and I think about those moments. The other was the exact opposite. It was a player who stayed relatively close to home, Paradise University, it might as well be called, but where she goes, I don't play. I think I'm sold that I was going to be playing. I don't play. For me, it's about playing. And what can you do to put yourself in a position where you've got to play? I don't know what the answer is for that. It's conversations with the coach. It's figuring out what you can do better. If that's not viable, there's an honest discussion. It's okay. Well, what are my options here? It just really hit home to me that something as trivial as a bit of rain, or something as clear as might not be playing here, factors so much in And these are two super, super smart, wonderful human beings that, on a very, very basic level, probably hadn't considered all the factors. You know, and I've worked, you know, if anyone's familiar with the Big Bang Theory, the show, that was the college that I worked at, which does not suit my academic needs for anything. But the players there all had to ask themselves the question going in: am I able to fit soccer around my full-time job, which was the college? You may have to ask yourself the other: am I able to fit my academics around my full-time job, which is the soccer? And that's where conversations have to be honest with yourselves, with your coaches, with your peers, but also potentially, I think, something which is missed often, and I'll be quiet then, with athletes as well. The great thing about being in your shoes, and the great thing about today's society, it's not just picking up a phone, it's a cold call. You can actively, I think we all know people in this, you all know people in this room, if not, let's know, who've walked the path or are walking the path that you want to walk. Have discussions with those people as well, because they can be a great resource, and they'll give you it warts and all. Believe me, they will. I'll be quiet.
No, that's all, very appreciated. All right, so one plug, there we go. So quick plug for sports recruits, right? So all of those factors, not all of them, but a large number of them. If you're on your sports recruits account, they have a great search engine, right? So you can go in, I don't think I can make this, oh, I can, there we go. All right, so you can go in and do locations by radius, by region. You can do academics by major, by college. So not college as in different institutions, but college as in health sciences, college of business, college of, help me here, coaches, college of engineering, things like that. So, and then you can also do obviously athletics. The sports recruits does more than soccer. And then roster needs, so you can be very specific about coaches or schools that are embedded in sports recruits, which is a lot of them, who have listed needs. And so the nice thing about this, and I'm not going to bring this in because it takes a little bit of time to manipulate, but is that once you identify some colleges, then you can click. So if I clicked on the Academy of Art University right now, I would be able to do a deep dive into all those factors. So you could look into financial aid, you could look into scholarship opportunities, you could look into their location, their distance from you, their housing, their dining, their extracurriculars, their campus life. All of that is right in there as you go. And a link directly to each college's actual website. You also go in there, and once you get into there, you can then identify coaching staff of all of the colleges across the country. They update this continuously. The staff at Sports Recruits updates this continuously so that you have an accurate name, email address to connect with at every college. Questions so far? I don't want to just roll. How are we doing? Still awake over there? Yeah? Have you figured out what you're doing yet? No? That's okay. You go on. All right. Okay, so then, so I figure this out. How do I sample my fit, right? How do I know that it rains in the Pacific Northwest every day, even though this campus is beautiful and this program is great? All right, so take every opportunity you have to visit college campuses, all right? And yes, it can be important if you know a college that you want to attend, that you visit that college. But if all you know is an area, you haven't figured out that college yet, but you know an area. Visit colleges in that area. If you figured out that you want a big school, visit some big schools in different areas. That may help you figure out what you like geographically, what you like regionally, what you like weather-wise, things like that. So do it on family vacations, right? Taking soccer trips, schedule a couple informal campus visits. Do some summer camps. They don't even have to be specifically soccer related, right? If you're also doing theater, or you're doing music, or you're doing something else, right? You're a mathlete, right? And you're doing a camp. Visit that campus. Obviously, soccer ID camps. Paul mentioned, connecting with friends and relatives. How many of you have someone you know that is on a college campus right now? They're going to college right now. Moms, dads, doesn't matter, everybody, raise, yeah, how many do you know? Okay, so what are you doing tomorrow? Well, probably not going to visit him, but you could, right? So, you know, connect with them, right? If it's someone that you're close enough to, spend an evening with them, right? See what college is like in that environment, okay? Holidays off, long weekends, blah, 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 okay? You get the idea. You cannot understand where you're going if you've never been there, right? You just can't. So as you build these lists of here's what I'd like, start to identify some places where you can go. And again, it's great if it can be that specific one you love, but if it can just be like that specific one, you can't get 400 miles away right now. But there's a college that is same size, kind of same general feel. All right, let's just go see what that's like. That'll give me a clue. Okay, I didn't mind that. All right, now I can spend the time to get further out. Okay. All right, so now we're going to get into the timelines and the recruiting guides. I will say some of this, we're going to go through some of it a little bit deeper than others because all of this is going to be available to you. So I want to spend more time talking to the coaches and our player than that, but because it was asked, I want to make sure that we get to this. So this is general. Again, jump in if I'm missing something. So yeah, I should actually have one I can give you guys. But okay, so freshman year, right? So how many of you are on 9s? This is you guys. Okay. All right. So first and foremost, right? You'll notice trend. Start developing a strong GPA. Okay. Take meaningful classes that will add to your academic rigor and create an environment where you understand how to study, how to manage your time, and how to educate yourself. Okay. So establish a strong GPA. Begin your search. Start thinking about college preferences. Go back to this factors page. Think about what's important to you. Try to get it lined up, and then open up sports recruits and start searching and see what fits your bill. Okay. Okay. This is exclusively for recruiting process for athletes. Create an email address exclusively for soccer only. Okay. You really need to do this, and it cannot be mom.com. Okay. I'm telling you, these guys are not recruiting you guys. They're recruiting your daughters, okay? They want to hear from your daughters, all right? And when they email back, when they're allowed, they want to email back to the person that they're looking to bring on campus, okay? This doesn't have to be difficult, right? Sally.Jones, Sally_Jones, Sally Jones, if you can do it, right? And then my recommendation is typically 2027 at whatever you're using, right? Gmail.com, Yahoo.com, Hotmail. God, Chip, don't stop. But anyway.
It's important because the Chipmunk Man story I'll always remember. One of my very, very first college experiences was getting an email from chipmunkman27@gmail. And like,
I hate to say that.
right away. It was a negative against them. It was a negative against them. Everyone was like, ah, Chipmunk Man. Like, what's going on? And you'll always get that 1% who slip up and do something silly, who don't take that seriously.
Yeah.
The other reason as well it's really important, I think, for what Will's going to say is, even since I've started this role, the amount of emails I get from people outside of that you want to be speaking to, that are trying to sell you something, or has gone through the roof. So I can only imagine everyone's normal Gmail accounts, that's the same. It would be so easy for someone to slip through the net, it's important. So I think having that specific soccer thing really keeps you concentrated on it just being a purely soccer-based thing. And maybe you're not getting 20 emails a day, you're just getting 2 emails a week on there. But the ones that you're getting are related to what you want, and then you won't miss anything. It might only help 1 or 2 people that, but it'll help someone.
So give me email address. I actually would change what I said before because I said first name, then last name. If it were up to me, you would all have email accounts that have last name, underscore, dot, whatever, first name, and your grad year, right? How helpful would that be? How many emails you got were from email addresses that had that?
Yeah, well, I think within it too, just some easy things. It's just, jersey number, grad year, position. Like you'd be amazed how many don't put a jersey number in, and then it's just again, it's not going to make or break anything. It's just a nice little touch.
We're going to talk about that when we talk about the email that you sent.
Oh,
so-
sorry.
No, but, I mean, you're right. So you don't have to put your jersey number in your email, because that's going to change.
No, sorry,
Sometimes-
in the body of it.
In the body,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a nice
Your
one.
email address should be your name and your grad year,
Yeah.
because that's how coaches track you. And if they have to go looking through and find, I know we had that email from what was that? And afterwards, when we're getting pizza, I'm gonna tell you the email address that I had. Not that I had, that I got from college afterwards. Okay, so next thing, watch college soccer. As Marcus said, most of you have no idea the level of play, right? So watch college soccer. You can go see spring games for both of these guys, okay? You can see fall games for both of these guys, especially fall, because their schedule and your schedule for high school are completely different, right? So they're playing when you're not playing frequently, right? There's also this thing called streaming and YouTube and TV, right? The amount of games that you can go and click on, and a broad level of games is remarkable, okay? So the reason that's valuable is twofold. One, so that you can see what they're talking about. What is the level of play? What is the speed? Go back to that first attribute, athletic ability. What is the athletic ability at this level, right? And it is different if you're watching different levels, right? NAIA is quicker, right? It's more technical, right? NCAA, especially D2 and D1, is stronger, right? It's more direct, it's faster, right? And you need to be ready for that. The other thing too is that it goes back to your understanding of the game. The more you see the game, the more you're able to read the game, the more you can understand the game, and then you're much more helpful to that next coach, to that next program, okay?
Just, sorry, on that as well.
Yeah.
I would just expand, like, you'd be surprised, there's quite a few top players that don't watch the game at all, you know? So even the ones that do get through and are very good, it's not a guarantee that they all watch it. And so I would say, you know, in general, watch any soccer, you know, and I would also say, you know, is it all girls in here? It's all,
Yes, yeah.
Don't just watch men's soccer, because there's going to be certain, you know, ways to have success, styles of play. Like, don't just watch the Premier League, you know.
Yeah.
Watch the women's game, and a wonderful little thing if time's an issue. Like, if you're on YouTube, you can get almost every NWSL game in about a 10-minute highlight.
Yep.
Right.
And you can also, Women's Super League, WSL,
Yeah.
so the English,
Yeah, it's great.
oh my God, the thing about it,
Yeah.
yeah, so you can get that free. You can
Yeah.
go on faplayer.com and get their matches, their highlights, everything
Yeah.
else for free, right? And then they also, DAZN has games on YouTube as well.
Because it won't always be realistic, you know, you can't sit and watch a 90-minute game every week.
Right.
But like the 10-minute little NWSL, it's gold. And then on the top of that, like, have a female role model. So have a player who plays a similar position that you're studying her, watching her, stealing stuff from her.
All right, next one, and this is critical. Paul and I were talking about this when we were running through this earlier. Play. Right? That means you got to get yourself in a team where you're going to get minutes. Play and train at the highest level possible. So what that means, sometimes you got to weigh, like, okay, I can be on the top team in my format, my system, my environment, but I'm going to be the fifth player, right? So you weigh that against, all right, the exposure that you're going to get in there, or I can be on the second team and I'm going to be in the top 5, and I'm going to get a lot of minutes. Maybe not as much exposure, but still exposure. But I'm in a situation where I'm going to be able to play and challenge myself more, okay? So that's one aspect of it. And the other thing then is what, John, I think you were mentioning it, Marcus, if it was you, I apologize, right? Is that do more, right? I think it was you, Marcus, right? Do more, right? If all you're doing is what's expected of you in your high school team, right? That what's asked of you, all right, I do that. If all you do is what your club coach asks you, right, then you're not doing enough, right? If you really want to move to the next level, right? So this goes back again, right? I said, we're going to answer your question in a lot of different steps, because it's a great question. I'm glad you asked it, but it's not there's not a simple road to how do I get to be a college soccer player. It's just not. You've already got 4 or 5 different things that you need to start doing, right? But another one is do more, do extra, right? The kids who make it to college, and yes, there are some freaks who are just, damn, they're just good, right? And so they don't have to watch as much soccer, they don't have to do as much because they're just special. Those are very few and very far between. The rest of us need to work harder, okay? Quick share, as I said, I had a daughter who played Division II in Florida. I have 5 children, all of them played soccer. All of them, most of them continue to play now. They're all great kids, right? She had a twin brother, and then our youngest, who was a year and a half younger than her. 3 of them were all the same athletic. In fact, our youngest was probably more athletic than my daughter, right? The boys did not go and play college soccer, right? Because every night when I came home from training, they were downstairs playing PlayStation or whatever, Xbox or whatever they're doing. My daughter was out in the backyard with a bag of balls, 10 cones, a rebound board, and 3 goals. And she worked. Not because I told her to. I didn't even ask her to. She worked because she had a goal to play in college, right? And she knew that she was going to have to because she wasn't that extra special kid. So she had to work. If you want to get somewhere, work. Don't say I want to get somewhere and then not do anything. Well, you're not going to get there, and then don't complain that you're not getting there. Work. Sorry.
I'm glad you said, I was gonna say that too.
Yeah.
Like the work, it doesn't come down to saying, well, I gotta get a personal trainer to work on this. Technical stuff, I've gotta get a fitness coach and a running coach and a biking coach and a hair braiding coach. No. Just go in your backyard and do stuff. You're gonna get more comfortable on the ball. It'll be more natural, right? And then, like my kids, I've got younger kids, they're basketball players. They're like, oh, can we play on this AAU team? I'm like, not until you spend 10 hours a week in the driveway on your own. Why would I spend the money if you're not committed to it? All right? And so no one is going to get you there besides you. And you hear the stories, you know, David Beckham and Messi, that's all they did. It wasn't because they had a coach who said, hey, come on, let's go do this. Or mom saying, get in the car, I'm going to drive you to this trainer. It was them and the ball. They loved it.
And I will lean on Paul here, right? Because as members of King's Hammer, you are given opportunities to do some extra things, right? Man, I would encourage, like, not everybody signed up for the 77 this weekend, right? The 2 of us have just offered up Thursday training, extra training on next Thursday, right? Who's going to show up? I don't know. We'll see, right? But you're given an opportunity to do more, right? And most of it, again, it's on you, right? You've got to put in work. Okay, folks.
And if you want to do even more,
Yeah.
ask.
Yeah.
If you want to do even more, ask.
Yeah.
You'd be amazed, wife can't hear me, at the amount of times that if you do, I'll say yes. And we'll say yes. Okay? Even if you think we're ogres, no.
I'm going to take, for her sake, I'm going to take you off to this, because it doesn't even have to be Coach Paul and I, right? We have typically 3 training sessions a day, right, that are happening. Not that, well, he is now, not me. So, but there are 3 training sessions. You might have the first one, you might have the middle one, you might have the last one, okay? Now, sometimes I understand, Mom and Dad, there are things that, there are obstacles to getting there sooner or staying. But when there's not, what's keeping you from going early and working? There's a field right there. There's kids playing, right? Get out there and work early. What's keeping you from staying, right? Instead of being the first one to bolt off the field, get your ball back out of the bag and do something for 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes until you're sweating, until you're actually sweating, okay? Okay, all right, we got that. Focus on elements of your game. You should be connecting with your coach and asking them what you need to work on. And I say this plainly and frankly. If your coach is not able to tell you what they're working on, tell me, right? Because that's part of my job as Education Director, okay? So I will get with them and enable them to provide you information that will allow you to guide your training, okay? So let us know, right? So if you're in the academy, I direct the academy as well. If you're in the elite, Paul directs the elite, and I'm coaching in there, and I'm the education director. So you have people to go to say, okay, I need help. I need to know what, okay. We'll make sure that your coach is getting you the information that you need, okay? And then get fit, stay fit, okay? You need to be more fit, wherever you're at right now, you're not fit enough. Get more fit. Right? And again, to Paul's point, Marcus' point, doesn't mean go hire somebody. Stop. Stop. We spend too much money already. Right? You don't need to hire anybody. Just work. Right? Move. Do some things. Okay? And while I don't put emphasis on everything you see on Google, there's a lot of stuff that you can find on Google if you're looking for self. What can I do on my own today? Boom, boom, boom. There you go. And if you're not sure, reach out to Paul and I. This is going to be like a reframe.
Yeah.
Reach out to Paul and I. All right. Okay, so in freshman year, man, it's been a long time. We're going to go through the other ones much quicker. All right, who is watching? And I would love input on this. This was a dive that I did, right? So in general, in your freshman year, okay, most of the coaches who are watching freshmen are major D1 and elite top D2 women's programs who are watching high-level games, okay? They're the ones focusing on freshmen this year. Again, still makes everything else important, right? Because that's about you. You're helping you, okay? Am I incorrect on that?
Time of day also has a factor, like usually they play the younger kids later, so it's like, for us, there's not another game, that's when we're gonna see you, or just where it falls.
And I'll say in general, that doesn't mean if a coach isn't passing you by, right, that they're, oh, wow, okay, that's a good one. They're really doing it. Yeah, I like the way they're playing. Okay, hey, who's that team? Okay, they may take some time, but not specifically going out and looking at freshmen in high school, okay? And most of the other programs aren't because they're busy on other parts of the field. Okay, sophomore year. Update your sports recruits player profile. You should have started it your freshman year. Update it, right? Make sure you get some video in there, and I can help you. Sports recruits can help you. I don't even need to help at sportsrecruits.com. I'm going to show you some things at the end. Create an initial list of preferred schools. So now an initial list of preferred schools. So last year, freshman year, you were just doing a broad search, right? Hitting all the bases. Now you want to get that narrowed, 20 to 30 schools. You maybe had a chance over the summer to take a look at some schools. So we got some. Start emailing coaches, right? And to Coach Robertson's point, make sure every email that you send, and we'll go through a template. You'll all have a template that you can look to. Make sure that you include your jersey number. If you're inviting them to come and watch you, right? Your jersey number, your position. Because they're not only just reading all these, but they have specific things that they're looking at each year. Okay, we know we've got this player, this player, this player, this player who are leaving, right? They're graduating. We know this player is injured. Who knows, she may not be able to come back. So they've got these positions that they're focused on when they go out and start looking for their recruits, okay? So make sure that you're putting that in and being as specific as you can in your email as it relates to you and to them. I'm going to touch on that again. Okay, for you, track those correspondences. It can be as simple as a notebook. You know, write down, okay, date, school, coach's name, and you know what you gave them, right? All right, email with upcoming things, okay? Prepare for ACT, SAT. Put this in. This 2 years from now may not even be a dot on the thing, right? Check the schools you're going through. It doesn't hurt you to prepare for it. But more and more institutions are leaning against SAT and ACT as an admissions requirement. So you may not have to take it. So that next year when it says take it, you may not have to check into the schools that you're looking at. Okay. Consider attending college IB camps. Both of these gentlemen offer college IB camps as well as general soccer camps at the universities. I would encourage you to get to them. Right? Especially if you're looking at their school or schools like theirs, right? So that you can get a feel for theirs, but also for other reasons, okay? So there's a couple things that you can do when you attend an IB camp. One, you can look at an institution, you can look at a college, you can see how the athletic team moves, right? You can hear the coaches, you can get engaged with them. But you can also get a sense of yourself. Right? You start looking at, okay, where do I compare to these kids? This is where you have to put in the work and be honest with yourself at the same time. Be realistic. How do I compare to these kids? Athletically, am I stronger? Am I faster? Am I weaker? Am I slower? Right? their passing rate better than mine, worse than mine, right? How do I finish? Do I understand I'm watching these kids, they defend better than me, their positioning is better than me. Okay, I need to work on that, right? So those are the valuable things in ID camps. I think from a recruiting standpoint, and if I offend anybody up, they can be a little bit more limited unless you are invited to them specifically because you're being recruited by that college. But I still think that there's benefit for athletes in attending ID camps. Paul, you and I talked about this.
Especially at the early age. Especially if it's a good local camp at an early age where you feel like, wow, I can tick loads of the boxes from that thing on that screen. I can work with a good coach. I can get good sessions in. I can compare myself to good players. I can do it locally. Why wouldn't you? You know, why wouldn't you? Don't knock yourself out and do loads and loads and loads, but pick one or two really, really good ones that fall on weekends that suit you. It's like, wow, why not, right?
And I think it's important, like, you get feedback, okay? And it's not always gonna be rosy. It might be like, hey, for you to play this position in our program, this is what you have to do, and this is, you know, allows you to know what to go back and work on. You know, so it's a great opportunity just to, you know, see what the coach is like and get that feedback.
Raise your hand if you're comfortable in talking to adults you've never met before. Yes? Oh, I see, it's like this. Is it like this? Or? Yeah, okay, good. All right, so one of you, okay? So this is what I would encourage you to do, okay? If you do college ID camps, right? Introduce yourself to the coaches, talk to them, talk to the staff, talk to the person bringing out the equipment, right? Why? Come on, why? Come on, girl who talks to adults she's never met before. Why? What's your name?
Nina,
Nina, why?
I make connections.
Okay, so you make connections, yes, why else?
Get to know like what they want from you.
Okay, so you can see some expectations and things like that. What else? What are you gonna have to do your entire life from here on out? Was that a dad though? No, no. Wait, sorry guys, you know, it's cheap, but that's all right, we'll give it to you, go. What? Talk to people you don't know, right? You're going to have to learn to get from here to, hi, how are you? My name's Will, and I'm damn glad to meet you, okay? Because you're not gonna be able to achieve everything you want if you're not able to reach out, right? If you're not able to connect and network, right? And it's also going to provide the coaches, staff, whoever you're meeting and talking to, something measurable about you. And they're also gonna, oh wow, okay, yeah, all right, I need to make sure that I get that player a little bit of a look. Even if it's just to give her information so she can grow. She may never end up here. She may never be a player that I need, but she deserves my attention today. That's it, right? Be personable. Okay. NCAA Eligibility Center, so this impacts any player junior to senior year who is going to play Division I or Division II, right? The eligibility, you know, they don't seem like difficult words until they start falling out of your mouth. The Eligibility Center is responsible for verifying academic eligibility for any athlete moving into an NCAA Division I or Division II institution. So basically what it is, it's kind of a money grab from the NCAA, right?
$100 now, I think.
Yeah. So they provide a service to track basically through your efforts whether you're taking core courses and doing well enough in those core courses to be academically and athletically eligible to enter an institution. So you have to, if you're going to go into either D1 or D2, you have to purchase a profile in there. Now, the good here, in the sophomore year, you just have to get into it, right? You register with it, get into it, you can see it. You don't have to spend any money on it until you actually are going to be recruited by a Division I or Division II coach, okay? And they will tell you that, right? They will let you know, hey, have you gone through this, okay? But you need to make sure you're doing it. So sophomore year, so how many of you are 08s? Okay, I would encourage you to just get on the NCAA eligibility site. I've got it listed in here, so you'll have it. We're gonna scroll by it so quickly you won't see it, but you'll have it, right? So this year, you should check that out, okay? All right.
And
Get
that's-
fit, stay fit, go ahead.
That's the minimum requirements to be eligible by the governing body, right? It has nothing to do with individual schools getting in, being accepted, so.
Yeah, we need to roll. All right, here we go. Okay, who's watching? So every year it's going to expand on who's watching, right? So sophomore year, mid and lower D1s are now looking at sophomores. All the D2 programs, top NAIA, are looking at sophomores. The majors, the elite D2s are starting to, they're focusing now on who they're going to recruit, even though at this point they are still not allowed to recruit except through the club coaches, right? So, yes, did I state that correctly? Yeah.
And believe me, they are.
They are.
Like the amount of conversations we've had about, you know, players of that age group who've been listed by coaches. What do you think about that player? What do you think about that player? What do you think about that player? Just because you don't hear those conversations, believe me, they happen.
Okay, so I'm just going to clip this real quick highlight. So you will, junior year, I mentioned this, if you're being recruited by a Division I or Division II school, you're going to have to register. So now you're going to have to pay to be in their portal, okay? And then jump down, create a realistic list of schools and prioritize them. So you should have a, there's a lot of different categories that people utilize, right? But you've got your reach school, right? That's like the dream school, man, if only I could, this would be the school that I want to go to, right? And then you have maybe 3 or 4 schools that are in your, this is my main list. They tick all my boxes. I'm pretty comfortable. I've got to see, at least 2 or 3 of them. I like that. And then your safe school. Like, okay, if I can't academically get in here, or the situation financially doesn't work out, or top athletic choice, I'm just not recruited by them. Okay, now I've got these safe schools that I'm working on that maybe didn't tick a couple of my boxes, maybe weren't my first choice in a couple of areas, but that I like and I feel like I could be happy in and I could be successful in, okay? So at this point, you went from 20 to 30 to probably 12, maybe less, 6 schools in your junior year that you're really focusing on, okay? So that means you're upping your correspondence with the coaches, right? If it's still an athletic fit for you, you're upping. Don't write this down. Don't write this down. You're getting it, and if you want, you can have a copy of it when you walk out. Of this timeline stuff. Literally, I have it printed out. I just didn't want to put it out. So, all right. So, engage in regular correspondence with coaches. All right. You can, June 15th, going into your junior year, you can start calling coaches, and they can answer and speak to you. Okay.
Or just, that's a big one. So, for the Division I schools, you're going to get a very generic ID camp email before June 15th of your junior year. We do not speak to players before that.
And that's so emphasize, right? I said that, Paul and I both mentioned that, right? Watching, recruiting, and again, recruiting is now for that sophomore year is only going to be through us. It's not going to be through you guys. What you will get from them is that invite to attend a camp, right? And it will be generic, and it's intended to be generic. And so that doesn't necessarily mean that you're being recruited by them, okay? If they're talking to us, then it means you're being recruited by them. And we will talk to you about it, right? We and all your coaches, okay? They're not just they don't just reach out to the 2 of us. They're reaching out to your coaches. As a director, he gets some. As a director, I get some. Hey, didn't catch a coach's name. We like this kid at this event. Can you get us in touch with the coach? Okay? So June 15th of your junior year, or going into your junior year, is a huge date in recruiting, right? Because that's when most everybody can now actually start to recruit. Okay? Does that make sense? All right. Okay, continue to watch games, make unofficial visits, and meet coaches, right? So you can now, and if this is different than I was, but you can now, junior year, right? You can schedule a visit and call the coach, and if they're available, right, they can meet with you when you're on campus.
After August 1st.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, right. August 1st, there we go. So, which would actually be in your junior year. So June 15th is leading up to your junior year. So, okay, so make unofficial visits and meet with coaches, who is watching, so we'll get through that. Again, you guys will have the senior year. train and play at the highest level possible. I mean, so this has, again, like a lot of the things, kind of double meanings, okay? Frequently, we will both see, when I was coaching college, I would see this, okay? We offer a scholarship to a player, and they're so excited. I've had this as a club coach, right? Where a player of mine gets a scholarship offer, or they just get a roster offer, like they're going to play, they're committed to a school. And now they take a deep breath and say, okay, now I don't need to play anymore. What? How's it? So no, you need to play. You need to continue to play at the highest level possible, pushing yourself so that these guys see the same you when you show up for their freshman year that they recruited when you were a junior and going through or into your senior year.
Equate it to running the Boston Marathon, I always think. Like, that's one of the highest level ones, and you have to be a top runner to get into the Boston Marathon. And when people get accepted into the Boston Marathon, what they don't do is go out and okay, see you in Boston. What they then go and do is like, how can I then go to perform the highest level I possibly can within that? And it's exactly the same when it comes to your senior year. Once, and God willing, everyone in this room does get the decision that they want to get into where they want, that is actually when the hard work really starts, because then you have to catch up with people who are 2, 3, 4 years older than you, that you're playing with and against every day for a jersey, for a roster spot on that team. So it's a whole new ball game then, literally. So that is why that senior year and before becomes really, really important to say, right, I'm going to put my foot down to close the gap and hopefully surpass some of the people within that so I can be the best I can. Very often that is not the case. Very often that plea falls on deaf ears. Don't be that person, because you see it too often. It's a real shame.
So last thing on here is just who's watching, right? At this point, senior year, so again, most of them are not watching high school games. So you're talking about November through May of your senior year. And it's really, in this case, senior year, it's November through March, right? That they're watching, because they're still looking. These are not necessarily actively recruiting you, they're looking because they need some players to recruit still, right? Some D2, a lot of D3s, I put all, that's situational, right? Some D3s may be done. And again, keep in mind, they're not just looking, they're looking, it's through the whole process. NAI, NJCA for sure, right? But they're still looking for players. They may have just found out that a key goalkeeper was injured. All right, now I'm looking for another goalkeeper. So they're actively going to coaches, going to matches, and looking for a player to then recruit, okay? Anyone not listed in here, so these gentlemen, right, are done watching players at that point, right? They may be finalizing recruits that they've already met with, but most of their work is done. Do you ever look at it as a senior?
I think everything's on a case-by-case basis. You know, if you're,
Right.
everyone's story will be different and timeline will be different, and it should be, you know, like, so if you're good enough, it doesn't matter if it's what year it is, you know.
Yeah.
Because I can only speak for my son in Florida this year. With the 2005/16, we played a game indoor. That was, I think, the biggest list of coaches that we had at any game.
Yeah.
So it's still
But, and part of it though is they're also scouting their recruits.
Mhm.
Like they want to check in on them, see if they're staying fit, see if they're playing, see if they're still competing, make sure that they got the right attitude right, and things like that. Okay.
I think the
Yeah,
thing that's interesting as a senior is like, what's your story? You know, so it could be a whole list of reasons you're still
Out there.
uncommitted. So
Yeah.
there'll be a story. So know your story.
Yep. All right. So this, you're going to get this, all this stuff, right? So we're going to skip through this, and we're going to go ahead and.
It's a big one.
Yeah, I do need to go through this. All right, so again, you have access to this. It is in Sports Recruits. I am also going to email this to all of you. But it's just a basic template of a message to a college coach, right? So it's my name is, no, let me preface this by saying, the only thing I hate about this is that it's a template, right? Please, please, for God's sakes, don't do a template to write your emails to a coach, right? You need to establish yourself as an individual person with all the faults and greatnesses and traits and characteristics that you have, okay? And present that to a college coach. And you need to treat every college coach and every school that you write as a unique institution and person with all their exceptional traits and their faults and their characteristics. When you write something to a college, please do me a favor, because you do represent us as well as your family and yourself. Take the time to find out something specific about that college and that team. Do your research and put it in that email. Okay? Do not take a look at this and then literally plug your name into it, plug your school into it, plug your club into it, and send it. Okay? I had a coach who coaches for us, who's also a father of someone who went through this process, and I like him dearly. And I cringed when he said, I must have sent 1,000 emails out for Jimmy, name changed to protect the innocent, right, to coaches. And I was like, my job is never done. It's like, Mom and Dad, you're not going to college, right? Your child is, and she needs to do the work, right? You can help her, right? Grammar with some of my children, it's not highlight. All right, every once in a while I check the punctuation. That's not true, my wife did. Okay, but they need to be sending the message, and they need to do the work to make sure that it's personalized and they're making connections with these schools and these coaches. Okay? Anybody?
I like to say this to the girls in the room, not the parents. Someday you might want to go to homecoming or prom. I'm pretty sure you don't want your parents picking who you're going with, right? You might take their input, but it's your journey, right? So, yeah, take their advice, listen to them, but it's your journey. So, whoever wrote that was someone else's journey. Use it to create your ideas. You know, it's really easy now to be like, I'm just going to throw something to ChatGPT and see what it says. Everybody knows you didn't mean it, right? So do the research before you think about emailing us. Because to be honest, like, we get hundreds of emails a week that all look the same, and guess what? We don't respond.
Yeah.
You didn't take the time, like, why should I take the time on the flip side? You know, Macy's heard this before from me. You know, imagine, you know, a boy wants to come ask you at homecoming, but he gives you a generic email. Does that make you feel special and really want it? We're selfish people, we're coaches, you know, so make us feel a little good. Let us see your personality.
All right.
Always so comfortably, by the way, my little girl's 3, I'm sat here shaking.
Yeah, all right.
My sister.
All right, Leah, come on up. All right, so we're excited to, I'm going to get out of the way because Leah's going to take my seat. We are excited to have an athlete from our program up here. I'll look at you just showing your athletic ability. So, Mia, what we wanted to do is just ask you to take a few minutes to just take the folks in the audience through your process and how you got to where you are now.
Hi everyone.
If you want to,
Yeah.
go ahead and grab. As I'm fairly certain you're not as loud as me,
All right.
which is good.
So I'm Mia. At this point, honestly, the recruiting process, like, it does feel like forever ago, but it definitely was, like, looking back, a really long and intense, like, period of my life. But again, like, it was really worth it in the end. So freshman year, honestly, like, I didn't do anything at all, and probably should have done something, but I just wasn't, like, really aware of, like, what to do, and nothing was really, like, talked about much. But then sophomore year, that's when, like, well, first off, I went to King's Hammer my freshman year, so I've been there for the past 4 years. And then sophomore year was the year that we made it into the ECNL, so that was also when we started to talk about, like, college a lot, and, like, our coaches started to bring that up. So that year, though, was kind of, like, difficult for me because it kind of felt just like a dark, like, period, because college coaches kind of talked to us till June 15th, so I felt like I was doing, like, a lot of work, like, for nothing. I was sending, obviously we go to the Nashville Showcase, the Florida Showcase, and then New Jersey, and then also that year we made it to Seattle. So I had 4 showcases, and I sent emails before the showcases, after the showcases, and like the emails I got back were just, you know, ID cams, as you guys said, or like, you know, we can't like say anything to you. So that was kind of like annoying because like I felt like I was just sending all of these emails and it was for nothing. But like as I went through the recruiting process, there is just a lot of like highs and lows. And June 15th, that was definitely a high because like finally coaches could respond. And at like midnight that night, I did get like some emails, and that was like really cool because it finally felt like things were coming together. So then junior year, June 15th hit. We then went to Seattle after June 15th. Coaches reached out. I talked to I'm committed to Purdue Fort Wayne, so I talked to my coach, I think in like late July. And for me personally, like talking to coaches, like that was really, really scary for me. I felt like I was really awkward, like on the phone, and I was really nervous for all of that. So like some calls were like pretty awkward, but like other calls, like it did just feel like much more comfortable. So like there's a variety. For that, like I did do like a lot of preparation. My mom follows on Twitter. She saw like College Soccer Truth. I'm not sure if you guys know what that is or not, but like for me, and like that was like really, really helpful. Obviously, like I couldn't relate to everything on it, but like 99% of the things that this like Twitter account posted was like really real, and like I mean they post like 5 tweets a day, and like a lot of it is very relatable and like just real about the process. So that's called College Soccer Truth, if you guys are wondering. But
Mia, I'm gonna just stop you real quick,
Yeah.
by the way. So that's gonna be in your resource list, because it's also something, and I'd love, at the end, I'd love to get their opinion on it, but I found it to be very enlightening as well. So you'll have that resource on your list.
yeah,
Thanks, Mia.
definitely enlightening. So yeah, I started talking to coaches to prepare for that. I just went through Google that with like College Soccer Truth. Like a lot of the posts were just like especially around June 15th, they posted a lot of what colleges will ask you on your first call, because I had no idea like what to even expect. Like I was a 16-year-old girl talking to college coaches, so that was like really scary. So like I just looked up and like basically envisioned me. I was on like my room floor for my first call. I had 10 papers out in front of me. I had like all these questions highlighted, like what they could possibly be asking me. I had gone through like each question, like how am I going to answer that? Because I just wanted to feel really prepared. And then like once I did get on my first call actually was really like comfortable. The coach was really sweet, but basically like all of the questions, like I did feel prepared for it. Like they're not gonna, at least in my personal experience, like they're not gonna ask you anything that's so like outlandish. Like it is all a bunch of like basic questions, like tell me a little bit about yourself, like position, just basic things. So yeah, I did some calls. I did a Zoom call. That was not my favorite. But then I finally, in July, talked to Coach Burr, who's now my college coach. In that call, like something just really did feel like, something just like clicked. And I felt really like wanted on that call. And for me, like something big throughout the whole process was like by my school, like I wanted to feel wanted. I wanted to go to a place that like felt like they wanted me. But I talked to Coach Burr, and on that call, he like talked about coming up to campus, and that was really exciting. But for me, like when I was talking to him though, like he had emailed me to like hop on a call, and I had never even heard of this school. So like that's another thing I would say, like even if you haven't heard of the school, or you're like your immediate thought is I'm never gonna go there, like definitely don't just like cross that off your list. Like that could potentially be like your perfect fit, as they've like been saying about your fit. So for me, like when I like hopped on the call with Coach Burr, I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm going here, but like just good practice. But obviously I ended up going there. So I would say that. I went on my first visit in September. That was really cool. I was really nervous for that again, but something I really liked about like my personal school was just like talking to Coach Burr was just really easy. He was very easy to talk to, because I had been on calls that weren't as easy to talk to, and like it didn't like flow as well. But on campus, it was, you know, I walked around with 2 current players. They were really sweet, talked really highly. One of the girls actually, like, her sister was gonna be a freshman the incoming year, so that was kind of big for me. I was like, oh, this place must be, they must like it pretty much, or pretty good if, like, they're bringing siblings on. So I was like, I felt like that was a good sign. And then, I ended the visit. We talked about, like, academics with an academic advisor. That was another big thing for me, like, my academics. That's always been, like, a big part of my life. I've always taken my studies pretty seriously, but as a sophomore, like, I didn't know what I wanted to do either, and that kind of stressed me out. I know, like, some people just, like, know what they want to do, but for me, like, I had no idea. So I definitely, like, when I was looking at schools, I was looking at schools that had, like, a wide variety of majors, just so I wouldn't be, like, limited in that sense. So, like, we talked to academic advisors, and also, like, I know there was, like, the list about certain, like, fits or whatever. The location proximity for me was, like, a big thing. I'm really close with my family, so when I was going through and picking schools, I try to pick schools that were either, like, in a, like, close distance from home. I definitely didn't want to go far. I know there's a lot of girls on my team that wanted to go far, but for me that wasn't the case. So when I was, like, picking schools, I kind of focused on, like, the Horizon and MAC League, which are just, like, closer leagues. That's, like, the league. I'm in the Horizon League now, but yeah, basically on my official visit, or that was an unofficial visit in September, we ended it, like, with a talk with the head coach, and I was really nervous for that, like, sitting down and, like, because going on from the phone is one thing, but then actually, like, talking to somebody in person, like, that's a whole other thing. So I was really nervous about that, but it flowed good and everything kind of felt right. But obviously I wasn't just going to commit to a school after, like, the first visit. So after that I did go on, like, a few more visits, but a couple months later I actually went back up to campus and then, like, verbally committed to Purdue Fort Wayne. So the first school I visited I ended up committing to. But yeah, that's kind of a little bit about my story. I feel like that was a lot of rambling, but
Okay, I just have to grab that mic. Is there any questions for me? Anyone have any questions?
yeah, and if you guys, like, ever want to talk to me, like, or any questions, like, I would be happy to answer them. Like, I know how stressful this process can be, and I would just say, like, definitely just, like, trust the process, because it is really, really stressful, but in the end it is worth it. But yeah, if you guys ever have any questions, like, feel free to, like, reach out to me.
All right, let's give me a round of applause. Thank you. And congratulations. Congratulations. Nice job. All right. Okay, would you mind passing the mic back down to the coaches? And then before we get into a quick Q&A, just if John, if you wanted to start, and if there's anything that you wanted to say specific to Division I, anything you felt like we weren't able to touch on, or just kind of your general. I know you can't sell UC, but maybe you can give a general idea of what Division I coaches are looking for typically. And I know to your point, it's case by case, but typically in a college athlete. And then we'll get Marcus to do the same thing, and then if anyone has any questions, I will bring the mic over to you so you can ask questions of Coach Marcus and Coach John.
Okay, so I'll try to be very brief, but I'll go back to, without flogging a dead horse, like consistency. I just think, be a good person, be consistent, and have as you talked about how difficult it will get, right? So whatever level you play, it's going to be tough, right? And you go, your Boston Marathon runners or your Tour de France cyclists, like elite people in anything, what they're doing, 25 of a marathon doesn't get easier for a professional marathon runner. They just get better at being in and staying skilled and being uncomfortable. And so I think that ability to, can you love doing hard things, and when you're in it, can you stay composed, stay calm, and stay long enough and seek long enough to try and find ways out of it. So I think that's it. Be consistent, be a good person, and be very self-aware about how do you handle challenges, how are you when things are going well, and like seek out hard things.
First off, I thought you did very well.
Thank
I like hearing your story. My advice to you, soccer coaches are just people. Just treat them like anyone else. I understand you're nervous. You shouldn't be nervous. Just talk to them. I know it gets awkward. Just talk to them. The advice I give my kids a lot of times, especially like if they've got to do something in front of a group, most people don't listen. They just want to talk. Okay, so talk to them. Don't be afraid. So I really like that. The last thing that I would say is, it is a journey. It's your journey. Just because your best friend is at this stage doesn't mean you have to be at that stage. Just because she's going to this level doesn't mean you have to go to this level. It's what's appropriate for you. And not to bash anything, but women's soccer does have a high transfer rate because a lot of times we like the logo on the shirt and not the right fit. So one of the things is you really need to get to know and talk to some people in the program. Are they like-minded when it comes to academics, when it comes to social, comes to soccer? Or is it just, hey, I will do whatever I can to get what I want, or is it what the team needs? And each of that's going to be different by level. That's the homework that you need to do, and that's where the ID camps and stuff like that, those are the opportunities where you really get to ask questions and see how they interact. I'm a big believer that especially in the women's game, that is as valuable, the relationships you're building, as the team you're going to. Okay, so you can have a very good group of kids with a very poor culture, and you're not going to win games and have a great experience. You can have lesser players that are all committed and singularly focused and do really well and have a great experience. And for me, I think that's more valuable, and that's something that I want for my daughter. So that would be my advice to you.
All right. Okay, any questions? Yep, all right, right up to you.
For Mia.
Name and then just ask your question.
Mia, when you went to the school to talk to the coach, were you able to talk to the players on the team right then? Were they introduced to you? Were you able to mingle with them or see if that was a good fit for you?
Yeah, so when I went on that was an unofficial visit, so I had 2 players that toured me around the school, and I talked to them basically the whole visit. At one point there was a couple players that had walked by us when we were with the coaches, and I got introduced to them. But other than that, I didn't meet the whole team. I actually just went on my official visit this past weekend, and that's when I finally met the entire team. And yeah, so that first visit though, I only met a couple of players, and they were seniors. They were seniors too. So once I get there, they won't even be there. So.
All right, thanks, Mia. Thanks for the question. Anyone else? Questions for you, the coaches, or Mia, or Paul? Covered it all. Oh, there we go. All right, I'll come back. All right, here you go.
So I'm an 08, but I'm still a freshman, so does the recruiting process look different at all? For any?
Coaches, Mia,
Coaches?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to what I know from that. It's based a lot more around this academic year that you're in. The academic year that you're in is considered first before your birth year. So you do have that extra year sometimes. So I think not sometimes you do have that extra year. It's definitely something to be considerate of as you go through the process, and that's a really important one because there's probably speaking to 20-30% of Kings Hammer players here when we say this about being what was then the trapped year. Really try, this is one of the big messages to come out tonight, don't compare yourself too much to others. Look at the timeline, particularly from an academic year standpoint, everyone's situations are different. Everyone's situations are different, and especially for a player who's playing with players that are a grade older, they should be further along in the process. And if anything, you can take the benefits of that to learn from what they did in the last year and use them as a little bit of a template for you.
Can I get you guys do me a favor? Grab the mic and then pass it, just that way it picks up on the camera better. Okay, so another question.
Yeah, I was just wondering, as far as ID camps go, is there a platform where you can go and see a list of colleges or based on geographic areas?
So it's going to come down to the individual college. Just go to their website. There are some services that are larger and bring a larger group of colleges in, but those are independent companies. So it's kind of finding the schools that you're interested or local that you can get to, just to get an ID. But yeah, what I would advise is like, hey, I would go all over the country trying to find ID camps.
Are they typically summertime or?
Throughout the year.
Okay, so
Throughout the year, yeah. So usually there's a couple in the summer, usually one towards the end of the season, usually one in the spring for most schools.
Right, and to Marcus's point, so there are national companies and regional companies that run ID camps. If you go onto Google and do, ID camps in my area, a lot of those things are going to come up. But your daughter would be very well suited to begin her search, right? And then identify 2 or 3 colleges that she's interested in that area. Go to their website, go to their athletics website and see what the college is setting up, right? Or get the coach's email address, and they will be very happy to send you generic college ID camp information.
And we're really happy to help on that as well.
Yeah.
I know I speak for myself here. I've worked in a variety of those camps nationally and kind of locally. Happy to put you in touch with people as well, but can also provide, I think, an independent point of view of whether it's worth it or not. Obviously.
Right, another question here.
Yeah, social media is massive as well, isn't it?
Hi, I'm Jen. Thank you all so much. This is very helpful. I have a more position-specific question. You talked about you bring people in. Sometimes they have played one position, but then you shift them to another. With respect to goalies, though, they typically come in and stay in as goalies. And is the pool of recruits smaller for goalies because you are, or how does that look to you?
Good question. I think again it comes back to like if you're a good goalie, then you'll be sought after. So whatever position you are, just try and be the best at it, and if you've got a knack for it, you'll have opportunities. I think the goalkeeping one's interesting. You have a lot of cross training with basketball, which I think is very, very helpful. Your core, your trunk, your hand-eye coordination, track and ball, like. It's so I think the goalkeeping position is an interesting one, and it's going to be, well, obviously there's less goalkeepers on teams. It's probably a position you sub less and change less versus maybe attackers, generally speaking. But again, I think there's a huge if you're a talented goalkeeper, there might be more scholarships available because there's less, you know what I mean? So what could be a negative could be a positive. But we all need good goalkeepers. We all need good goalkeepers.
Yeah, I think it's going to be case by case, school by school. But for other positions, goalkeepers, that kind of odd thing. You're goalkeepers, But for the rest of field players, Will mentioned this before. When we come to watch you play with your club team, we're not watching you how you fit in your club team. We're watching how you can fit into our program. So, for instance, you could be a really good forward, score a bunch of goals, but hey, we've got a need right now for someone that can attack as a right back. That's what we're looking for. That might be where you fit. It's to your advantage, because if we're looking for that player to fill a hole, you're probably going to play a little sooner than, hey, I'm the third forward and there's 4 seniors in front of me, type thing.
Sorry, back to the goalkeeping piece. I think maybe if you are a goalkeeper that plays other sports, I think don't let yourself just be a shot stopper. I think the trend, the way the game's going is distribution in terms of attacking and exploiting the opponent is huge, but then also there's going to be a requirement in college. You're going to have to serve other goalkeepers. So the training environment, the training habits, like every goalkeeper matters and everybody counts. So I think making sure you're well-rounded, and I would say back your ID camp thing. I think goalkeepers should be able to benefit from an ID camp because it should be quite similar to what a goalkeeper training session might be in college. So I think make sure your feet are good if you want to be a college goalkeeper.
Okay. Any other, one more? We'll go one more question, and then we'll wrap it up.
Sorry, I just quickly have one. How does high school fit in for you as the recruitment process?
Do you watch high school games, or how do you feel that fits in?
We're going to be drastically different. For us, it's, on one hand, we don't really recruit high school. Our fall schedule's so swamped that, you know, we're not going to go very far from home base. And really, for us to go to a high school game, it's really just getting a chance to talk to you, see you play, you know, and really just show you some love. It's difficult for us to really evaluate. We've already evaluated the club situation. So if that's all we can do, then we can do it, but we're going to want to see you in another environment. So for us, very rarely are we ever going to go to a high school game and be like, that's a kid we want to offer.
I think high school's interesting because, you know, if you think about the down the line, you might, you know, I don't know, Paul, you might be able to speak to this, but, or maybe Rita, but, you know, how many of your friends you'll stay with or stay in touch with a long, long time, would there be more from high school than your club? So in terms of the school pride and, you know, that kind of, you know, loving the badge, I think there's something to high school. And I think just, you know, state by state and area by area, I think it'll depend on, you know, how useful high school might be. But there is something to, you know, you can play in front of big crowds at an early age, you know, that school spirit, the local rivalries. I think there's maybe something to that when soccer we're almost getting to a 12-month game now. And I don't think it's designed to be that way, but, you know, does it help burnout? I don't know. Does it help some people, you know, like we get to do this, we don't have to do this? I think there's something to it, but as I say, high school will vary all over, you know, depending on what area you're in.
Me personally, I played high school my freshman, sophomore year, but then junior year I decided not to play, and I played on like the fall team. And I'm not saying like don't play high school, but like for my recruiting process, that definitely like opened up like and gave me a lot of time to like search out schools and go on visits visits I might not have been able to go on if I was playing high school soccer, because I wouldn't have been able to like miss a game because it's like during the week. So that's another thing, like definitely, like, I'm not saying don't play high school soccer, but just like each process is different, so like everything just looks different, but yeah.
I would say, what a perfect way to kind of finish it is say, it's so broad. You don't know what you don't know, right? I mean, 20 years ago, stepped on a plane to fly to California for my first week in America. I thought, wow, I'm living in California for the rest of my life. This is unbelievable. I'm going to be a surfer. Here I am in Kentucky 20 years later. And I thought Kentucky was just a place that made chicken. That's what I thought Kentucky was. And that's what everyone in England thought it was. And then I had a conversation with someone a few weeks ago. I was telling them where I live. They're like, what? Where's that? I said, you need to see it. It is beautiful. You want to see the place. It's unbelievable. It's by a big city. It's close to other places. You can get to anywhere. It's fantastic. You don't know what you don't know. And like, come into this with an open mind is what I'm trying to get at. Because you'll be amazed. There's some brilliant, fantastic coaches out there and places out there and academic studies out there that you might not even have touched on yet, and nor should you have. But whatever the situation, just know that wherever it takes you or however it takes you, we'll support you along the way. Whether that takes you through high school, brilliant if it does. We'll be at the games clapping and cheering along, pretending we want you to win. And but if you don't play that, we'll be cheering you along as well to help out whatever way we can. So know that and have that come out from tonight, that we want to be a part of your support system. So let's support you, and we will.
All right, I'm going to wrap things up real quickly. So to the girls, hopefully a couple things or a few things you've been able to take from this. One, it is your process, your experience. Own it. Okay? And it doesn't matter where you're coming from. I know currently players who are in college now or committed from college from premier teams, from Kings Hammer Academy teams, from RL, from NL, right? Again, it goes back to own your experience. Play and compete at the highest level possible for you. It's not always the same level, right? But own your experience. Find your fit. Not her fit or her fit. Your fit. And I think you said something really important, which was that it's not always that first one you thought of. And sometimes your fit is one that, as Paul just said, you didn't know. Okay? So that's going to take the last thing, which is some work. If you want to achieve, you have to be willing to work. And that's the soccer stuff, the physical stuff, the mental stuff, and the applying yourself stuff. Okay? Again, all of this will be available to you in Playmetrics. I'm going to be doing some editing and some things, and then Matt's going to do some editing and some processing on the film. All of this will be available to you. I would encourage you to go back to it and use it as a resource. If I can dig it out of my briefcase real quickly, I do have that year-by-year timeline on a one-page back-to-back. I'll be happy to give it to anyone who wants it. And right now, I want to finish up with first another round of applause for our incredible athletes. Well done, Leah. And then for our two coaches for volunteering around the time, John Robertson, University of Cincinnati, Marcus Walker, Hennessey University. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate your help. I hope you thought it was valuable. And if you have any input to us, let us know via email to Paul or myself. Okay? Thank you. That's it. We'll wrap this up.
Yeah,